Officially live.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:20.
Officially live.
Yeah, turn that down. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:20.
Officially live.
We don't have any public attendance at the moment. So we'll start by just reviewing the meeting minutes of the March 5th meeting.
I motion to approve.
Second, Mr. Chairman, I second the
Okay.
motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
As far as I know, we have no CEO actions. I checked the folder, I haven't seen anything in there.
Okay.
I guess before we start talking comprehensive plan, perhaps we could discuss budget.
Yep.
Oh.
Take life.
A quick question. Have you taken the training yet? And I think the answer is no. Okay.
And first one, I missed it, the second one I hadn't done it.
Not a problem. So we need to get you re-signed up for another time.
Oops.
I was putting on Starlink when the second training, and I forgot all about it, I was freezing on the roof.
No problem.
But no, I haven't.
And I know we're, I don't know how much that is, but
It's just, I told her I'd pay for it.
we got you covered. But
No, I did tell her I would.
it's on your list, so we'll get you. So do you want me to register you?
Yes, I do. And give me the date and then call me. No,
Yeah, I can do that.
it's not bad. The first one, I thought, I was working and I really thought it would be starting at 6. And I went to get on to do it and had no, I was at work at 4. I had no idea it would start that early. And then the second one, literally, I had no internet. I couldn't do it. I had no internet.
So I don't know if we have anybody else coming on board. There may be other trainings that we want to take. So this is what we have for. Last year, we were approved for 4670. As of this year, so far, we have spent.
did that get emailed to us, what we've spent so far?
She did send it to everybody as of the end of February, like 221. I can forward that again if you'd like. But
Yes,
so
I got it.
far, we have spent 2673 as of the end of February. Now we still have. First quarter and second quarter compensation, which is about $1,500. Roughly. So that would put us at 4173.
So last year, we actually did request the funding for a fully staffed board then.
We've done that every year.
Oh, good.
Just on the hope that we're gonna get somebody.
Yeah.
Why did we not receive the whole request? Do we know of what we requested last
We
year?
requested 5,020. And the budget committee and the select board, what was passed at town meeting was 4670.
Okay,
So I think they felt like we did not need all the other things that we needed.
I was gonna say, I think mileage might have got cut
hmm,
and I don't, yeah,
because so much is online now.
yeah.
Yeah, that's-
We do get billed for notices in the paper. And we have spent $30 of our budget for that so far this year. Now, we didn't. I mean, I think they figured that we didn't have people for a full year and we could just move within categories. So right now, we will probably spend close to plus we still have some more notices in the paper, which are like $30 a piece. So we'll probably spend close to 4,300 this year. And we do another training, so 43. We might be up to 4,400 this year. And again, we don't have, Don only came on board in the fall.
Right.
So let me put up what we've got. I have this over.
And we had Brian briefly, very briefly, he was with us, you know,
Yeah.
as a full board, and then he had to resign.
I think he didn't actually want to get paid.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be paid.
No.
Well, that's
He-
very
he
nice.
requested to not be paid to do
He
it.
wanted out of the house.
So
Oh, so
Right.
this is the.
I downloaded it
Institutional knowledge.
and then opened it and I was able to rotate it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
recall, I do recall. On the right Wi-Fi.
And
Yes.
mine was called doc089.pdf.
Yeah, I downloaded it and saved it as spending year to date.
Okay.
Oh, they were at the side.
This was from Diane Ray.
That's the budget, the budget letter. Yeah.
Mm. I just see how
Sure.
it's saved on your.
So I downloaded it.
Okay. Let's see.
It was.
Was it from
further
Diane
down.
Ray? Oh,
No, it's that one.
oh, that one. Okay, got it. Thank you.
And then. There it is. And when you open it, it's gonna be crooked, so download it.
And then I can rotate.
And then once, yeah,
Okay.
although,
Well, actually, let's see. Could I just
All right.
maybe
are
I'll
we
just
up here?
open it up from my downloads folder. That might.
It is up here if you want to see it.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Is that hard?
That's our spending year to date. So we were budgeted at 4670, that number right here. Actually. This is saying we've got,
2673?
yeah, so it's listed as unexpended balance. Okay, so we've spent 1993 so far. So we've spent 1996, so roughly $2,000, this number down here.
mhm,
We have 3 more months to go.
Right, so we have roughly 2,600 left. We've got about 1,500 in salary. So that gives us still another 1,100 on top of that. Even if we pay for another training or we put some ads in the paper, we'll still be well within budget. Do we want to request the same amount as last year? I'm thinking in the next year, hopefully, God willing,
can I make a
we're
suggestion?
gonna have, yes.
So what did we ask for the previous year, but then they reduced it? 'Cause
5,020.
I think we should go with that. Again, and my thought process behind that is they're gonna wanna be able to
Cut.
cut it. And we don't ever use it all. So I would rather have a surplus in the budget than to have to ask for, later on, ask for more. So that's why I was saying if we,
We just brought it up to 12,000.
yeah, we had originally asked for 5,020. And
I think we're gonna have, because of the comp plan, I think that actually gets done this year. We're gonna have several public hearings. We're gonna have to have some more facilitated meetings. Last time we rented the,
right,
Historical Society building. You might wanna bring refreshments if we actually get a good turnout. I mean, that could be a couple $100 worth of expenses there for that as well.
I wouldn't go down.
So we're saying a request 5,000.
Yeah.
So if we do that, but so we,
So those are all gonna stay the same.
so let's make this line up to 5,000.
So just take,
So there's the
Take
paper,
20
it's
bucks.
actually gonna go up, so let's say 90, because that's they're 30 a piece, let's say we do 5, then 9 times. 3 times 5. 150, my brain is not adding. And we could take supplies down to,
720, 730.
are we okay with that?
Mhm.
You all right with that, Robin?
Yep.
All right,
Now, let me just ask something here, though. As far as the pool of money that would be used for any meetings that we have for the comprehensive plan, what category would that fall under here? On this,
office / meeting supplies,
okay,
this is where our use, I don't know if we can. We'll probably have another.
but that had said $900 originally, right? I
We
mean,
just
but
dropped it to 730.
did we, were we able to save money on, let's say, paper and toner and things like that? Is that what we could drop it?
We could, right about now is when I submit, we had to get something for us
The
last.
notebooks,
Oh, yeah.
the notebooks and a case of paper and binder clips.
Right. So so far we spent, $276.
Okay, well, that's not bad then, okay. The reason why I asked is because I know that as we were discussing what to ask for, one of the things that was brought up were these meetings, so that's when I saw that category drop, I just wanted to clarify that, so thank you for that.
So we'll be a little bit over probably 4,000.
Excuse me.
I'm not gonna leave this in, but if we have like 1,500 roughly in salary for the first. Plus a training cost and plus one more public hearing this year. That's at 35. So. We will keep it at 5 in our request and we'll see where it goes.
What happens if we don't spend money? As far as what happens to that, I think someone had asked that before, and I'm sorry that I didn't
It just,
quite.
it's in the general fund and it goes into any carryover. Okay, it says it was appropriated, if the tax is collected for everything that was appropriated. And it doesn't get spent, it just stays in the general fund.
But does it stay in that category?
No,
No, we don't.
no, we don't get to roll ours
We don't
over.
Does any of them, I'm just asking.
Yeah, there's a few departments that are a type 3 that do get to roll theirs over.
And you've got that.
But we're not.
budget thing you were working on, right? 'Cause
Yeah, but that's why I'm asking, because I'm still not sure on. Cause I'm still gonna find that out from them, with somewhere here I
How
got.
much is sitting in those accounts? But those are the ones that carry over.
Yeah,
I don't
We don't
know,
care.
do these carry over hold on.
the reserves do, yes.
I know, so then. this
That's
is-
like your savings account, some people call it. Parks and Trails has a
Okay,
reserve.
so I need to redo that then, because in the town reports, it doesn't show it as.
No. You can't. It's all it shows in the town report is what we appropriate every year.
Okay, so where do I get the figures? So the fire department, highway, roads, and that all,
You'll find that out at a budget meeting.
okay, well, we probably done for that.
And I'm not being smart, I just, yeah,
Cause yeah.
'Cause we have to have that.
Because
What the carryovers and everything are, or do we even put that in this?
well,
Or do we just put what's budgeted?
no, we should know what's in amounts in the reserve accounts and I don't know who the accountant, the auditor, somebody should be able to tell us
Yeah.
what's currently in the
I would imagine
the
that,
reserve accounts.
well, couldn't Kathy tell me?
Probably not, probably that comes from the treasurer, but I know. I'm fairly sure that they have gotten that because Brian has access to quite a bit now.
Okay, well, I'll come down tomorrow, I'll ask them tomorrow,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
So
So I went
public,
through all the other numbers and
Oh, yeah.
I'm just checking these numbers.
It may be to sit with Brian and get it directly from him, because I think
Yeah.
there's a funnel there, and I feel like Brian has that information, and
Yes.
not everybody else gets it.
yeah,
But Brian works full-time, doesn't he?
at the school, yeah.
General fund otherwise, I think goes there. Yeah, okay.
Okay,
And ours goes there, any excess.
so I will send this right now to Kathy. Us. Who else is on the budget committee?
Mac, Dawn,
I am,
me,
Oh,
there's only 4 of us.
did you get the time of that meeting yet?
Yes, she sent it out this morning. Brian had a death in his family early this morning,
Oh,
so
that's terrible.
it's at 6 o'clock,
So anybody?
his uncle.
Oh. On Conan or the other side?
Did you know?
Hmm?
Did you know Ann?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it hasn't been put out yet. Well. It's way hard.
Um,
oh,
Oh, no, oh, not so hard.
we recorded them.
I was
no.
doing gestures.
So, are you going to present will you as a chairman
Yes.
be the one to present to the
Yeah,
budget committee?
what's the date of it again?
1 second.
Who send us an email, Robin, about the budget, the upcoming one? Who sent us? Because like I look
Kathy
it up.
Walker has
Kathy
been.
Walker, I'll look in my email
Yeah.
here. Because I don't always check my personal on a regular basis.
Send out to everybody, and then you'll have it, and the budget
Yeah.
people will have it.
Yeah.
All good.
Cause someone you know may have deleted that email, I guess. Won't mention names.
Want everybody here, plus the budget committee. The, budget committee letter is,
I pulled it up from Kathy, sent from March 11,
And what's the date of it?
and that will be April 2. Will be the date, yeah, and we have to submit this in 4 days.
done, we're done.
Yeah, all right.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. Budget meeting
Yeah,
at
you're
6
14.
o'clock,
Yeah. Here.
April 2nd.
You can't be there. I'm happy to be there.
okay, what is it we have to do?
Well, nothing, you'll be the budget committee, but they want the head of each department, so.
This would be good.
Tom should be.
I should show this to Val, maybe, if she wants to know more about that.
Well, she'll be here for it anyway, because she's on the committee.
Oh, she's on it?
Committee.
Oh, okay, that's great. I was just pointing out,
Yeah.
April 9 is when the budget committee is gonna talk about reserve accounts. I saw on this list, I thought that'd be good, but then Robin,
yeah,
you're on the
maybe, yeah.
committee, so. Okay.
Those are the only two, this is all I'm joining.
Where is the, where do we put out, like, the Lake Association budget request? That's not on this list. At all.
Well, does that fall?
But
doesn't that-
there's no social service under,
oh, here it
that
is,
falls
social
under
service.
social services.
That's here on April 2.
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that today
So
too.
that'll be due on the 4 days.
You know what there's gonna be?
It's always $500.
That's easy.
Another dissociation. There could be more.
And the library is not much. I was shocked at how much the library and but then they, because we get it for free, you know, Ludden, well, with that amount. I mean, I think it's really for
All right,
free.
we finalized the budget.
Yay.
Also,
I sent a note, copied you guys to Brian to ask if he's heard anything from the town attorney. We'd like to schedule him for our April 3rd meeting. Can I get contact information for this attorney? Can we find out what's going on? And I've heard nothing back. So let me just double check to see if I heard anything today from Brian.
I doubt, Kathy said something to me yesterday when I came in for cake,
Mhm.
that they've heard back from him and he wants to Zoom. Especially the cemetery ordinance, he has issues
Fine,
with.
but let's get
And
on.
because I asked her tonight when I come in, I said, so is he gonna Zoom tonight? No,
Well, so I've asked twice now for the
But he's-
contact information to set up that attendance with him, and I haven't yet.
well,
So I
he's
will-
emailed stuff back. I'd love to see that even.
Yes, we'd like to see.
Yeah, we should see that.
I mean, that would be good to be able to read through it before we
Yes,
talk.
I will ask. him.
I like
Well, there's no
Jack
reason to
Conway
not.
would lay things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, how did we not catch that?
All right,
But
I will
that's the
stop
general
in.
advice.
I will stop in town. They're open tomorrow and Friday or
It's
not?
tomorrow until.
Yeah, until noon, I think.
I'll try to
yeah.
stop in tomorrow morning and request that officially.
Are you only open till noon every Friday?
Correct.
I don't come in that, I know.
Today's
As a
their
rule, yeah.
late day,
Yeah.
6 o'clock PM.
All right, so I guess on our agenda, are we back to the town plan? Do we have anything else at the moment?
I'm working with Sean on the water district part, because that's part of mine. And I'm like, I don't know enough about the whole water district deal at all. So, yeah,
Okay, I mean, there wasn't much in the plan about it, really. I don't.
no, it gave a lot of history and this and that, but I thought Sean would be better.
Well, we could certainly condense some of that down, as far as the history, because we've got it in other documents, but. It's really about how many subscribers are on the plan now, and it'd be great to be able to put a statement in that says, and we need X number of subscribers to be able to be a solvent organization.
And maybe a little bit about their plan.
Yep, that would be
Arrangement.
super,
Yeah,
that'd be super.
he just got back from Virginia, so.
Cool. Other people have submitted different sections. I know I'm trying to set aside a full day next week to pull together everything we've got so far into one document, so we can say, here's our history parts. Or the inventory and the insights, and then we can start as a team. I think we can start to brainstorm where to go, and then. Select Board has said they'd be happy to look at that and be in on that as we're developing the going forward plan. But we still have to just wrap up that inventory piece.
Yeah.
So, I think what I'll do is put together what we've got, and if there's anything that we still need, we'll just highlight it. And then we hopefully fill in those blanks and then put that piece to bed. I'm saying that so that I can be assured that we're gonna do that.
No,
I see
I'm
skepticism.
just about done. I was just going through it again, checking the numbers, but I got it.
Well, and again, depending on the source, right, the numbers change, so you've gotta be.
I'm staying with one source. It's changed like
It
several
does.
times, and I actually put in the source, so I'm done. I want to be done with this.
I'm just
too.
saying, not too long ago, I did something for a client, I was giving them their results from this study, and I took a dartboard. And I put like. These numbers, like consumer blah, 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 and I just put, let's just shoot a number at the dartboard, because they were like all over the place, right, there was no clear. Direction, and they were making their decisions, basically, well, I like this and I like that, I'm like, they were ignoring the data
Mhm.
too, I'm like, you might as well just take a dartboard. But at some point here, I think the same thing, we have to.
Yeah, I'm done, actually.
It's not you, I'm
No,
not,
no,
I'm not
no,
like
no,
pointing
no.
at you.
No, that's fine.
Cool, I think it's a full day just to sit down and do that. And get it with one document. And it may not be a Google doc because it's got pictures and everything else in it, but we can at least get it into some document that everybody can look at one thing at one time and go from there. What do you think, Bradley? I mean, you have the agricultural section, right?
Right, but I need to keep at that. Yeah, because it's not, I don't think it's ready for prime time.
Yeah,
I think it was close, there was just a few more pieces we needed, and then it's really that, so what, right?
Yeah.
I think there's somewhere, I'm
There's
working on,
forestry too.
that's right, yeah, and forestry's a big part of the town.
Mhm. Yeah,
Do you need an introduction to somebody to talk to get the rest of it done?
I think what I'll do is I'll go back to the, I'll go back to the website that you provided, because they have a link there. And I'll just follow wherever that leads, because I think that that's probably the most promising avenue to get the information, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, APCOG has that link to the state
Mhm.
data, so I don't think it's a good start. All right.
And I've been slacking, so I'll get that done.
Oh, see, I'm only the only one behind. the curve.
I've started, but I was looking at it and
It's a daunting task. It's not-
is it?
Well,
I have the
it's like
economy
doing your
one.
taxes, right? You gotta get your head in the right place,
Right.
and you gotta sit down and do it, and say, I'm not getting up till this is done.
That's
Because
exactly
otherwise,
true.
otherwise it'll
That's
lead
exactly
you all over the place.
That's very true, because like, oh,
I know, it's like, I'll do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, you know what? All of a sudden, it's a month later. What happened? We've all been there, I mean, real life keeps getting in the way of a strategic plan. Strategic plan.
back to work, longer.
Yes. All right, so the other thing we have on our schedule is the cluster housing ordinance.
Oh, yes, we were working on that one, weren't we?
We were.
And then,
Um,
so we gotta start.
let me s- give me a second to see where, um, So we took the old one from 2006 and converted it to a Word document. Now it's gonna have, hasn't been reformatted yet. Let me just go to the, where we have the Google Sheet. Hold on.
I was going to say, if it's just to save duplication of effort, are the drafts on the Google Drive as well that we've been working with? Okay. Just want to make your life as easy as possible if we already are working on it from there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Town Canton Google Drive, is that what you called it?
Yep, town Canton.
Yeah.
I can show you. Yeah, you're
There
right.
it is, right above the
Yeah.
cursor.
I have learned how to bookmark and get to stuff faster. I don't mind.
Fourth
84%
column.
of the storage is being
Yeah,
used.
they lie. So, I need to clean out stuff. Cluster housing, cluster housing. So this is still but this has not been updated. Make it a little bit bigger. So this, so let's just go through together, maybe.
Okay.
The idea of cluster housing was something that was started back in the 90s, I believe, that was talking about, instead of getting kind of urban sprawl
Right.
where, you know, you have every house has, and you kind of spread out, could we maintain, and what's happening there is downtown areas were like getting erased or ignored. And so they said, what if we figured out a way to keep houses maybe a little closer together, but create some open space, so like a park or a gazebo or a pavilion with picnic tables, so that people in this cluster housing could have a communal space to play, to socialize, right? And it had a whole different community dynamic to doing that. And you could make better use of some pieces of land by having this cluster housing. And so in doing that, you had sometimes had to change like the minimum lot size requirement, right? Because now you have to have, you're gonna have smaller lots with houses closer together. And the state, I believe, issued a cluster housing ordinance. So I don't know yet. We should look up and see what the
Yeah.
latest one is with the state.
Did this all come about because of the, I think I may have asked this before, because of the buyout and the plan that was gonna happen?
No, it was in place prior to that. The only thing that changed, and I will get this on the top of page. That number doesn't fill in. Was this part. Under the section VA,
Village Center, okay.
yeah, village center lot size designation. So part of it was that we wanted to, at the time wanted to maximize the use of municipal water and sewer. And balance development with open space. So village center, helpful to our current projected residents, the following shall apply to the village center only. So this could be a potential change if we want to make it a broader application. The minimum lot size can be 10,000 square feet, as long as 30,000 square feet of corresponding open space is set aside. Right, so right now, our current lot size is 40,000 square feet, that's our minimum lot size.
That would be that right there.
Right, but they're saying you can now build on, if you only own 10,000 square foot lot, you could build on that. But in that whole development, you've got to have 30,000 square feet of corresponding open space. And it's,
So the acreage then stays the same,
Yeah,
right, but the use is different.
yeah,
And I think, and so, a really great question would be, if we're thinking about other development in the town, do we want to take out this? Keep the lot size designation under cluster housing, but take out the fact that it's assigned to the village center. Right, so what if somebody right across the street from here, because that land is available right across the street, what if they decide they want to build some community up that hill? And the best use of that might be to put, I don't know, I'm just making this up, right? A park down, a playground somewhere on that lot and put a bunch of houses close together. I don't know that we even have anything that addresses apartments or condominiums or multifamily houses in our ordinances. That's something we should think about also.
we don't have anything now that would be designated a cluster housing area currently.
I don't know if Whitney Brookside is considered one. But because it's a nonprofit, it's senior housing, it's a whole different designation.
Yeah.
But that might be technically cluster housing, because the lot size are small.
Yeah,
Now, that's a subdivision. I mean, the village center thing was technically a subdivision also.
I think, for many years living in cities and in housing developments and things. I mean, one of our housing development was a minimum of an acre lot. But to keep the country feel of the area, my personal opinion would be not to have cluster housing with houses close together. Have the minimum lot size, like give them space. Just to keep the country feel, that's part of what is good about living in an area like this, and then, and if this continue, or if this, I know Turner is like what they call the bedroom community to Auburn, but eventually, I don't know if it'll come this way.
We're considered a bedroom community right now to Farmington, Lewiston, Auburn, South Paris. We're already considered a bedroom community because people live here and commute to those locations, and Augusta even.
Okay.
What if it's-
I think it would be nice to have developments of sorts. And it would be good for the town. I just know that some of these are like real close together, and I think. I think there should be a lot minimum as far as having. I mean, is there a state rule where you have to have 3,000 square foot of open space? Is there a rule to that, or is that our rule?
Well, the compensation, I think the compromise here was that if we look at this ordinance, if we back it up a little bit, right now, the cluster housing ordinance says. I'm looking for, there's just, well, I'd have to go back and look at that, hold on, let me find the original before we convert it.
What's JG?
This is a conversion from a PDF. Oh, okay, that's what I mean. Let me send a converted one, because that was.
Okay, okay.
I was gonna say, I've got written in 20,000 square feet, but I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, so
Which
yes,
would equate to how much land?
a half an acre.
Half an acre. See, now that's good. I think that would be doable. I just think, you know, there should be space between the
Mhm.
between the homes.
And going to Don's point, I pulled up a open space subdivision ordinance model. This was from the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments. And one of the things that's brought up about the shortcomings of a lot of cluster housing ordinances is it says, let me just read the little section. It says, open space subdivisions intentionally or should intentionally include important features in protected open space. Traditional cluster subdivisions typically do not. Unfortunately, most cluster subdivision ordinances fail to accomplish their purposes. Many of these ordinances lack site design criteria for locating lots in open space. And then I'm just going to jump to many cluster subdivision ordinances set aside too little open space in rural districts. So I think this, with the Kennebec Valley, and I can share this with everybody. I haven't looked at this extensively, but it sounds like this ordinance is kind of like a twist on the cluster housing ordinance to set aside more land.
Yep.
And maybe achieve what you were aiming for, Don, about more land conservation.
Well, I think you're saying two different things. One is more open space. You're
Yeah.
saying bigger lot size, right? And those are two different things. 'Cause
I
they're
think
saying-
you could have both.
Right, I think what they were saying is, can we make smaller lot sizes and put more open space?
And see, that's what ends up happening.
Right.
And then people are right on top of each other.
Right.
And
But I know my husband used to say, let's move to Maine, buy 100 acres and put a trailer in the middle of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I understand that mentality. But as we're aging, I want to be able to call a neighbor and have them come over. If I need them, and I like the hearing people in their backyard having some fun, whatever.
well, even with a half acre lot, you can still call your neighbor and have him come over. I think minimum it should be that, as far as trying to, you look at is it called Pine Shores or what is it called?
Yeah, Pine Shores on Church Street.
Right.
Yes.
I think, that, I don't know what the lot sizes are there, but those are pretty close. I mean, not too close, but right on the border. I mean, they're,
Yeah, we can find out what those are, but those are, they, I think, have some ordinance in there too about maintaining all the big trees and stuff. So that most of those lots, not all of them, but most of them are really prettily wooded as well.
right, they are, they are.
Protected woods.
And that kind of helps with privacy. And, here, if you're gonna do a development, you might be able to do that and have a little bit smaller lot size. You just gotta determine what it is you want. I just think it takes away
Mhm.
from any community when homes are like matchboxes.
Mhm.
Then they're.
Like World War II,
Well,
rural
I grew up in
healthcare.
a quarter acre lot,
Mhm.
so they weren't have to make it a quarter acre.
Quarter
So that
acre.
that would be the 10,000 square feet,
Okay,
right? And every third house is identical, right? Just 3 house designs and they're repeated over and over.
yeah, been there.
And there's a lot of them in a small amount of area. But growing up, you knew everybody on the street and you could run over to somebody's house and play at, Joe Smith's house. You'd hop the fence in the backyard and get to the neighbor kid right behind you.
So-
So it was a very different mentality.
Now,
So I think you're thinking more of like a neighborhood.
Yeah,
Like I grew up in Lewiston, but I was on the outskirts of Lewiston, so I grew up in a neighborhood where everyone had at least an acre to an acre and a half.
it's,
And, yes, between my parents' house and my neighbor's house was probably 50 feet, 50, 60 feet, but on the other side, it was, 300 feet to the next house.
okay,
So,
depending on where they located the house.
yeah, well, yeah, so like.
Yeah.
But that way, but we didn't have like the communal grounds that all of this would have. But again, it's basically, you're describing like a neighborhood with larger acreage lots.
Yeah, and
Essentially.
there was no community space. Meaning, you might have a clubhouse. but there was no open space or anything. So I'm just saying, that would be my only thing that I'd want to avoid.
So the ordinance right now says 20,000 square feet, which is a half an acre.
That's,
So we don't want to go any smaller.
No
than that,
smaller
is what
than
I'm saying. So the section, perhaps in a rewrite, the section that was targeted just for that village center project. That said, hey, we can go down to 1/4 of an acre, just for here, as long as we set aside 3/4 of an acre for open space. Right, so you didn't have, it wasn't like house to house, you know, in that, the overall lot size, the overall lot in that development. There was certainly houses close together, which made it more efficient for water and sewer. Right.
okay, that's a thought.
It was a lot more efficient, and then, but they had a playground and a like center meeting space and. The landscape, like the what, because it's on a hill, right, there's water retention, you can put it.
Was that up here, what you're talking about?
That was where the solar panels are now.
Okay, and that was on a 1/4 acre?
Right, and that was,
What?
and this ordinance was switched, was modified or updated just for that. To say within that particular development. We could have, there could be 1/4 acre lots with the corresponding 3/4 of an acre of open space.
What if you did something in the respect that some lots could be 1/4 acre, some lots could be 1/2 acre?
Absolutely.
Because in one of the developments I lived in, it was anywhere from 1 acre up to 8 acres. So depending on how the land lays out,
Right.
you could have a variance, you know, and maybe someone would want a smaller lot.
Yeah,
And then-
You know, anywhere from.
or
so-
somebody just buy 3 lots and have
Right,
no neighbors. No
Now,
neighbors.
practically speaking, though, I wonder if we, if we had cluster housing, I would imagine that it would be it would not be, we wouldn't have too many of these, I don't think, because you'd need to have a developer who would see return on investment, things like that. There could be, I don't know, there is demand for housing, but I wonder if that plays a factor, like practically speaking, how many of these would we have in Canton? But then on the flip side, I'm kind of imagining both of what you're describing. When you're describing it, I'm imagining walking from one house and then walking a bit to the next house and everyone has their white picket fence kind of a thing. There's a way in my mind, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. And then when I think about what you're proposing, I'm thinking about like walkable cities. Or like maybe like some fountain and a little plaza to sit down in, but everybody's kind of closer together. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's how I conceptualize both of your visions. Both of them look very nice to me in my mind.
Well, so you're saying that.
I would not go below 1/4 acre.
No,
I wouldn't go below that on any circumstances.
Okay.
Well, that's my opinion, but.
we're kind of anti-neighborish.
No, I stayed in a condominium, so that's different, right? But I said to my sister at the time, I said, when I opened my bureau drawer in my bedroom, I can hear the person on the other side of the wall opening and closing their bureau. So it was a dicey situation, you know, I mean, but that's apartment building.
Yeah. Like even living in the middle of Canton, in town here, some of the old houses, you can spit out one house into the other person's living room through the windows, and I'm like,
Maybe for, I don't know.
Okay, so let's, right now, as we're updating this and cleaning it up and making it usable, let's leave it at 20,000 square feet. Let's suggest that we take out
We could probably take out the village.
the exception for the village, take that
Yeah,
out.
but is the village there?
No, we didn't build it.
So that doesn't even need to be in.
Right. so
Okay,
take it with it.
okay.
It might be interesting to also take a look at. Does the state have a cluster housing ordinance in place, and to see if any other neighboring towns have actually built something under the cluster housing mandate or ordinance, to see what they have and what that might look like.
What is that development, Bear Pond? On the Bear Pond Road, there's on the left-hand side going from.
Across from the lake.
Yeah.
Across from the lake.
Senior house. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not cluster.
because I know someone that lives
I don't
there.
know, that's not cluster housing.
No, well,
Well, it kind of looks like Whitney Brook, I mean, the house,
Well,
Yeah.
they're back to back too.
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, they're like duplexes.
So this says, this was originally written in 2000, before 2006. Right, to allow for the new concept of single-family housing developments so that variations of design may be allowed, provided that the net residential density shall be no greater than is permitted in the district in which the development is proposed. Which right now, according to this ordinance, is 20,000 square feet, so that half an acre until you. With the one exception, so if we take out that one exception, we're staying at a half an acre. For a single family home.
So who? When you have a situation like that where. This one where it was, 10,000 square feet. But then you set aside 30,000, who owns the 30,000 square feet?
I don't know if that was a,
Because if you do a whole cluster housing thing and you buy 10,000, a quarter acre, you buy a quarter acre, you buy a quarter acre. Now we've got to have 6 acres set aside that you can't now build on. Who owns that?
I think it's still the developer though, isn't it? That, so, yeah,
But then you have HOAs at that point, I mean, then you get into that kind of stuff.
maybe,
You know,
yeah. Yep. Yep. And I know my son is looking at the house and he's, anytime you say the word HOA, he's like.
Yeah.
He just makes them, even though I've seen people for whom they work well, but.
I've seen both.
Yeah.
this is where my grandmother and then my aunt lived. I'm a very visual person, so I pulled up a home of my late grandmother and then my aunt in Queens, New York. To just conceptualize, so I looked up,
I like this.
yeah, there's a
That's
Dutch
different.
colonial. And then this
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
but this is a 6,000 square foot lot, which is 0.137741 acres. So when you, that helps me conceptualize, so a little bit less than double that is what you're saying, that it should be a minimum, just to have some space here between neighbors. So you don't hear the other person say,
Where
sneeze.
is that?
This,
Like, what town?
this is
Queen.
This is Queens, this is where my grandmother lived, and then
Yeah.
my aunt, my late grandmother lived here till she died.
Yeah.
But this is actually in a community called Little Neck, which is still
Okay.
within the city limits, but right on the border, because my grandfather worked for the city and you have to live within the city
Yeah.
to work for the city, but Great Neck's right outside. So this was still within the city limits, but right on the edge.
So
Yeah.
this was.
Anyway, sorry.
It's crazy that is that like
Yeah, but you
the
know-
estimate of what it's worth? If you took that
Yeah.
house and put it in Canton?
But see, those,
It would not pay
You know
for
what I
the
mean?
land, at least. The
Right.
house was not.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mhm. And has a backyard too.
So here's a.
But the fact that it's 1.1 million.
I looked up examples of cluster housing developments in Maine,
Mhm.
and this popped up for York.
Okay,
So this is as, like we said, so they're sharing a driveway, I guess that goes into each garage, and then you've got the homes. Right, and so clearly.
It'd be fun to snowblow.
They're all.
that's important for neighbors to get along.
Right, but you've got this greenway back here, whatever that is, right? Here you've got a clubhouse, community garden, and a clubhouse here you've got called the green with. Can't see what that is, gazebo in the
Ooh,
middle. So you've got like a gathering spot here and you've got community gardens. Clubhouse over here. So I think the idea was for people who don't want a big backyard, I'm guessing, I don't know, these tennis courts, pickleball courts. Down over here, right? So there's community amenities that everybody can participate in, but you've got a smaller lot size. That's, I think, the intent behind it was that we're not just gonna warehouse you in a little box, but we're gonna give you chances to interact with your
Yeah.
community.
Does that,
last house in Florida. I mean, but I had the biggest lot in that development, but still, the homes ended up being like from here to that wall.
Right.
So, I mean.
We have setback requirements now that are, I think, 30 feet from the lot line. So then so that's our current thing. So it doesn't matter how big your lot is. You can build up to within 30 feet of your lot line. The neighbor could build up to 30 feet with it. So it could be 60 feet between you and the next guy.
That's right.
Even under the current plan.
does that say if it's a HOA or not? They look like
Hundred and ten
multi
single
houses.
family, 2 family and over 55. Plus, there,
So it has, I mean, this whole development, which may be a bigger piece of it, right? Planned community, design to integrate into the extensive protected habitat. So there's a protected habitat area.
that's
So
on
we don't-
106 acres.
108 acre
108.
parcel accommodates over 110 single family, 2 family, and over 55 cluster housing prototypes.
So basically,
So not all of these are cluster housing.
No, but you've got 108 acres and 110 single family homes.
So 110, I think that's all of that, right? A combination of single family, two family, and over 55. Cluster housing, so only the over 55 is the cluster housing, I don't know if that counts as this, or if this is the two family home, I don't know. Hold on. So there are some examples here of what these houses look like. So here's a bigger picture, right, we were just looking at that
They have a
little
golf
piece down
course.
here.
Kind of looks like they have a golf course or something.
Is your open space.
That's the open space, yeah.
So hold on. Oops. I just want to make this bigger.
So if you think about it. That is all of the 108 acres right there, right? Look where all the housing is sitting.
Well, there's housing in the brown.
Oh, there's housing up there?
Yeah, these are two phases instead of multi-phases. So there's something down here that, these might be the duplexes down here at the bottom, because they said two family homes. Those might be the duplexes.
Okay.
I don't know. But maybe these are the senior houses, the cluster housing up here, because it looks like there's 4 units off of one driveway. So those could be senior housing, and maybe these are all single family homes. It's hard to,
Yeah.
On your touchpad, if you pinch, does it zoom?
no, it's not this guy.
No. On, like this.
On her HP.
Yeah, I didn't know if I did it or not. Like if I-
Fancy
like,
ones? Are you kidding?
if-
Lucky
like-
Jason has internet. Usually I can just go control plus, then it'll go bigger, but it's not going bigger here. Anyway, that's one example. So I have an example of the Woodstone at York Village. And only part of that was considered cluster housing. So here's cluster housing explained. I'll send this article. Its benefits, origins, and forms. That's a whole article.
Well, the word cluster means close.
Right.
What we want is urban sprawl.
Well, I mean, funny you say that, right? 'Cause I saw originally when they started talking about that, I'm like, people spread out, they buy a lot, they build a house, like, I don't see what's wrong with that. Part of it is the desire to put more people on the municipal water and sewer. So you wouldn't say, hey, Canton Mountain is gonna be a cluster housing, right? That's not the point. It's
No.
more in a village.
In a village, okay.
Right, and the thought is, can you get people there that can walk to amenities? Can they walk to the variety? Can you build some additional amenities like retail? or-
Okay.
That they would like to do, right? So it's a different concept of living than just buying a lot and kind of being isolated from your neighbor. It's like, how do you get people to?
Okay, so
Yeah.
think of this a little bit different, because we're gonna be within the city town limits, it's what more like here to out. Okay.
I don't know where there's a spot you can actually do that right now. That would be able to hook up the sewer and water right now.
Well, could you do it across the street? Could you do it down on 108? I mean, there's other places off of 108. but
That's pretty much it.
You could do that.
Right.
Yeah. So we will try to find out if there's an updated state cluster housing ordinance. We'll clean this one up formatting wise. And so let's,
Well, I guess then for this particular purpose, it should be less than 20,000 feet, if you're gonna actually build a cluster housing development. That, but this,
Yeah, I'd like, half acre.
but this 20,000 square feet, that's a half an acre.
Yeah.
I don't know where we list, let me just do a quick word search here, do we have, I don't know, if any of our ordinances
okay, but
address.
on the half acre,
Mhm.
when you look at the pictures, can they put duplexes, and can they put like apartment, a multi-family homes and things like that, so you're ending up with more on that half acre. So are you better to bring it down to, if it's thinking cluster,
Right,
bring it down to a quarter acre, and then you get more homes in that particular area. As far as, I don't know. Because See, I'm looking at it more as an individual house, and I think there should be a minimum. But if you're, but now looking at cluster, what are we trying to? Like she said, get more people on the sewer and water and get more income coming into the town. I don't,
Like, I guess, you know what, we need to also consider is what if you have, let's say someone who is looking for, you know, an affordable place to live, maybe they work in Auburn, hypothetically, I'm just putting that out there. But they want to be able to access a lot of things without having to commute all the way to Auburn to do all that.
okay,
So I guess would something like this kind of encourage investment from businesses to put in, let's say, a plaza that might have a Saxoff Fifth. I don't know, I'm just imagining down the road. You know, something like some retail shops, maybe like a little bit of a Freeport Village, you know,
Well,
and
you gotta have people in the town to. Support it.
oh, yeah, absolutely,
So-
yes, yes. But the only thing that I can think of that might be a downside is once you relegate a certain area to cluster housing, that's a footprint that you can't just undo in the sense of. I guess you could offset it with nature, setting aside nature, but that particular location will forever probably be dominated by a structure, and you have to be willing to say, okay. Can I live with that trade-off? Can I live conceptually with the idea that we're setting aside this, but there's going to be a footprint, just like a road. When you put in a road like 108 or something, forever, basically, that road, that piece of dirt is
Exactly.
always going to be paved on.
Yep.
So anyway,
Well, I guess,
Let me go back to our subdivision ordinance for a second, because I don't know anywhere in our ordinances that we talk at all about apartments, multifamily homes.
well, dwelling unit, the definition of dwelling units on the in the subdivision ordinance would include apartments. Yeah.
So if you look at that, development in wherever that was, right, they said single family homes, multifamily homes, and cluster housing, senior houses.
Yeah.
So they only called one of those a cluster housing. So it'd be interesting to find out what their definition of cluster housing is and why, like why a multifamily home or a two-family home, a duplex, basically.
Yeah.
Didn't.
good question.
And so what are the, like I mean, subdivision, we talk about dwelling units, but I don't know that we talk about. Size, right? We don't talk about minimum lot size for like a duplex.
Well, maybe because it's two, maybe because duplex is two as opposed to.
Well, it's two dwelling units, but we don't know what the. Minimum lots, I don't know, I feel like there's a little bit, it's not clear in my head what we have for regulations around those things.
How long does the sewer go down that way? I'm just thinking,
It's stopped
It's-
before here.
Oh, yeah, way down the road.
so this is on what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and septic.
Yeah, and it stops at the wee house in the other direction, you know, it used to be the wee house.
That one I don't
If you're
know.
going towards towards Peru,
Yeah.
on the left-hand side. Bernie Edmonds house, what is
The one he's on now?
with the big garden,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the house next to him, that's got all the trailers and
Yeah.
everything there. That's right about where this water and sewer ends. Currently, so if you had to do something here, you have to extend, but like, both utilities are like, yay, get more users. Or you have to extend in the other direction as well.
Well, if you, I'm just looking at, you know, I don't know if it's, you know, the Wainwright property has been for sale for quite a while. I mean, that, maybe you'd have to extend it, but usually the contractors have to do that.
Right.
And they have to put in so much for expansion of school taxes and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, or you get a tip,
Okay,
which is the set aside.
okay.
So, for example, the town collects the increased value of taxes from that property. They may choose to give a portion of that back to the developer. And then they may choose to take the other portion and use it for like the water sewer extensions. But meanwhile, that valuation is sheltered from the school taxes and the
Okay, gotcha.
other stuff. That's what a tip does.
Well, so let's go through this and I guess. I'm kind of going back down to now for the purpose of cluster. Minimum quarter acre. Quarter acre, let's do like a quarter acre and up.
That's the 10,000 square feet.
What do you think?
I'd like to look at some other cluster housing designs, and let me call some people who are in that business and say, hey, can you send me, or can we find some plans of what
Yeah,
cluster housing developments look like? And why that might or might not be
Mhm.
amenable. Like, I'm not sure, I mean, Whitney Brookside is senior housing, fixed income or low income senior housing.
yeah,
That has a whole nother ballgame, but I believe that is considered cluster housing.
Then they're spread out. I mean, they're multifamily units.
Right.
But there is some space between some of them. You know, there's like, they're in groups.
It's an age-friendly community, I think, per the statute. Maybe there's some overlap, but I see there's the definition in for planning and land use regulation under municipalities and counties. Age-friendly community means a community where policies, services, settings, and structures support and enable older people to actively age in place and that recognize the capabilities, resources, and needs of older adults, plans to meet the needs of older adults in flexible ways. It goes on, but and maybe that's what it is.
So if you look under here, approval of cluster housing plans, it says the planning board may allow subdivision development on reduced lot sizes in return for open space where the board determines that the benefits of a cluster approach will prevent the loss of natural features without increasing the net density of the development.
I like that.
The developer shall submit a proposal showing one layout as a standard subdivision, the second as a cluster development, indicating open space and significant natural features. So that was a piece of it too, like could you cut down less trees, or could you keep a
Yeah.
park, or like in the
Yeah,
case
that's
of
why I thought a park.
the other one, which would be, there was water, like restricted
if there's,
wetland.
yeah, a pond or something.
The other thing was I think when they looked at that development, the offset of open space, there was some conversation that buyout lands could be used as the offsetting open space, because now we've got this huge commitment and it's within the town. It doesn't, may not have to be in that development per se. But it was irrelevant because there was plenty of it up there, but I think we might have some creative ways to make something happen if you want to make it happen.
Well,
Well, so anyway, all right, so we'll,
I think,
So with the way the ordinance is currently written, the only spot that had the stipulation where you could have 10,000 square feet was the village area that was going to be built behind the villa.
yeah, I mean,
So for,
you didn't have, I mean, this ordinance gives the planning board the opportunity to do that anyway.
yeah,
But I think somebody at that time wanted it in writing, specifically that they were gonna give that variance. And
Yeah.
So rather than have it a variance, they just wrote it into the ordinance and they got the ordinance passed, which is
So-
not me.
well, I think that 10,000 would be minimum for a cluster.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes if you have single family homes, say an acre.
Well, that's our current, that's our.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but for the cluster quarter. And maybe up, I mean, however they situate
Mhm.
the buildings, but
and I think section 4 says may. In other words, maybe in this ordinance, maybe there's actually more discretion where the planning board can say, you know, even though you meet the requirements, we don't like it. And I mean, there's that word right now, may, so it doesn't say shall.
Right, so it's something to do on reduced lot sizes. So that's saying,
that's right there, yeah. Okay.
so if you keep it 20,000, you may allow a division down to 10.
Okay, that
Or
covers
you
it.
can make it 10 and say, well, not ideal, we're making allowances to do that. I mean, you can make it either way.
Okay. I think it's good.
Here it says too, each lot in a subdivision shall meet the minimum lot size and lot width requirements of this ordinance. But if not served by public sewer, an area suitable for subsurface wastewater disposal, so basically saying if you don't have public sewer here, municipal public sewer, you have to make sure that you get a lot of houses in a closed space, you have enough,
for your septic.
so, yeah, to accommodate that.
Yeah.
The street ordinances,
In this ordinance, okay.
I would go back, we may want to go back and look at our street ordinance too, because at one point I know there was discussion about our street ordinance required a subdivision to have as wide a road as like 108. And I'm like, really? It should not be that big.
No,
And they're like, well, what about fire department? And we got them, what their requirements were, we called the school bus people, how much you need for a school bus. Blah, 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 and we went and measured a bunch of roads and other developments, and like, nothing was as wide as one. So I think they may have changed that, their road width thing requirement. But
I think they did though, didn't they? They all, for the for
So
the
we're,
one that was gonna go in, I thought they made a change to that size, yeah.
but I don't know if that changed the ordinance overall. or
Just
they
that
changed it for that development. But
Okay. That's true.
they had to give them a total site plan, paths, roads, blah, blah, blah. So the net residential acreage. Calculated by taking the total area of the tract land subtracting. 15% of the area of the lot for roads and parking. Portions of the lot that are isolated and unavailable for structure purposes, portions of the lot in a floodway. Versus a lot which are unsuitable for development in their natural state due to topographical things. There's a lot subject to rights of ways, portions of the lot located in the resource protection district, portion of the lot utilized for stormwater management. So that tells you.
that's not unusual.
No, so saying if you take the whole lot, you subtract all those things, that tells you the amount you've got left
Mhm.
potentially for development.
Mhm.
So to determine the maximum number of lots permitted on a tract of land, the net residential acreage divided by the minimum lot size requirement tells you how much you can have. You can get a high density sort of survey map. Probably submitted. This is gonna be a lot of fun here.
I'm sorry, the font size is.
Yeah, well, this is that conversion thing, and think about that from that. No, lot size will be smaller. That's
Okay,
correct.
but what that other statement says may be smaller. So should you put a caveat on there,
Yes, we'll figure out how to,
on that statement, that
yes,
should equal the total? Oh, there we go. Let's see, some area.
let's see, some of the area.
Less than-
Common land. within
wouldn't it-
Or exceed the sum of the areas in which any
So we
structure lots
have
would
an
be
ordinance
used below
then,
the
right, that we're
You
changing.
can,
changes
if
to.
we have 30 feet.
this
property
one
line,
is
not gonna be
from
25 feet.
2006.
We never have had
Because this is
cluster housing
cluster
like
housing,
that.
so this is specifically saying,
Okay,
what
Yeah.
we're gonna do differently
We
if
don't
you're
like
proposing cluster housing. So. If somebody wants to put like that other development that had, single family homes, whatever their ordinance in that town says for their distances. The. Two family homes, in the cluster, right, they've got multiple ordinances they would have to look at for that particular design.
okay, so you want to leave it less than 25 feet? No, the distance between structures shall not be less than 25 feet.
Yeah, these are worth looking, I mean, I don't know why no structure should be higher than 28 feet, I mean, those are like weird. Kind of, like, why did they say
I
that?
mean, that's. That's
I mean,
really.
that's a 2-story, well, no, that's a 4-story home, right? You're like roughly 8 feet.
Typical 2-story home is 20 to 25 feet tall.
Hmm, so they don't want a big apartment building, they're like condos,
Yeah,
you know, that seems.
Well, and this is only for cluster housing, right?
Right.
So this is what they're making you do, if you subdivided a piece of land and wanted to build an apartment building, it was 6 stories high. This has nothing to do with that,
Right.
No, but like a community.
Right.
Of condos,
right?
this would be, that are multi,
Correct. Now, it was
you could still have
interesting,
condos,
when I
but.
was in Asia, they had a whole interesting concept where they took a huge apartment building. I don't know how many stories, 25 or 30 stories up, all these apartments, and there was like 4 or 5 of these tall pillars. Around this central area, the central area was a giant food court. Because they said people, and that was where everybody socialized, that was everybody went to the food court at night, that's where you ate, that's where you, and food was inexpensive. And you know, and you could, it was a lot of seating, a lot of, probably 40 or 50 food vendors, I mean, it was huge, it was a huge area, but, and people said, in your little apartment up here. It's hot to cook, you know, you don't wanna, blah, 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 blah. So
This was
everybody-
where again?
It was in Singapore.
Oh, Singapore,
Other
okay.
places like that. But I thought, that's a very interesting concept, because they built that centerpiece for socialization, for cost effective, you know, food prep, for all those kind of things. If you scale that down and said, the idea of doing some communal activities, whether it's a clubhouse, a pavilion,
Well, you could have that, you could design, I mean, the contractor could design it so there'd be something in the center, you know. Where
Yeah.
people could meet, whatever, but. But see, you couldn't really have that open concept here because of the weather,
Because of the what? I'm sorry.
because of the weather,
Oh, yeah. So it'd have to be indoors.
yeah, you know, but even at Whitney Brookside, I mean, they have that clubhouse, I don't think they ever use it.
Oh, yeah, they do. It just got remodeled.
Oh, did it?
but people go there to play cards and work jigsaw puzzles.
Cards, they've had dinners, they've got some events planned, yeah.
Oh, good, I
The
didn't,
new management company has, yeah,
oh, it's in new management now?
well,
About a
the
year.
last, no, 4 or 5 years.
Oh, good.
They've done a
So
lot.
do you wanna leave that at 25 feet and 28 feet?
Let's
So
do
how tall is the tall houses usually 30? Feet tall?
20 to
That's
25.
probably 2-story building. Yeah, so let's just say right now, we'll come back and take a look at that. I don't know.
I almost feel like we need an expert. Do you know what I mean? Like when Congress invites people to testify, I feel like, you know, this is not necessarily our area of expertise, so.
And see who they know
Yeah.
that might be willing to advise.
That'd be great. You know,
And I'll call some people I know in like main housing and see if they know somebody who could advise on what are the latest trends in cluster housing, why certain limits are put in place, if you can envision cluster housing for the next 20 years, what could it look like? And what do we need to do to update our ordinance?
mhm.
Okay, shore footage, okay. So that one, it says there shall not be there shall be a maximum one direct vehicle access onto public road per 5 lots.
So what they don't want is if on 108, right, you don't want to start having 12 driveways,
Okay,
right, necessarily.
oh, so one driveway would,
A maximum maximum, one direct vehicle access under public roadway per 5 lots. You could have,
that's kind of like the development in Buckfield, right next to the high school.
Yeah.
I would imagine I wouldn't imagine it's a cluster housing development,
Yeah.
but it's a housing development and it has one road in and all the driveways come off of that road. Correct. Is that what they're saying?
I think they want to minimize public access. Now this says maximum one direct access per 5 lots, so could you have one direct access per 20 lots?
There shall be a maximum one direct vehicle access on public road. Okay, public road would be, let's say 108 per
Right.
5 lots. What does that mean by one direct vehicle access? What does that
It's
mean?
one road,
Like,
just make one road, one
There
like
shall be
driveway.
a maximum. Well, why then, so could you just have 20 feet, 20 lots on there?
Yeah, I don't see
Yeah.
why you
so
couldn't
it
have.
sounds like what it's saying is that, it's gonna reduce the number of access points to the road to say you can have multiple ones, but the ratio has to be 5 to 1.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
Access from
right.
108.
Yeah,
Say the.
108, let's say,
So, but the question here is, right?
but if
could
you have
this-
20, you could have
could
either
this
4
be
or
one
1.
access or 20
Yeah,
units.
I think the way it's structured now, it could be that if you have 20 units, you could either have 4 or you could have 1, but you can't have more than 4 for 20 units.
oh, is
Kinda
that what
like-
it's saying?
I think
so-
that's what it's
Yeah.
saying.
The
Okay,
way that I'm reading it is, look, you built something here,
yeah,
and let's say there's 20 units,
uh-huh,
you couldn't have three roads going in to feed those, no,
right,
the other way around.
You couldn't have 5.
You couldn't have like 5 or more roads to feed the 20 that are there.
Kind of like at the Canton Point Trailer Park. You have them all around and you only have, well, there's really now 3 roads coming into the Canton Point Road.
Like you couldn't do one road that has 3 on it,
right.
another road that has 3, another road.
So
that has 3.
basically, it's saying minimum 5 lots or more, no?
I think you could rewrite this to be.
There should be a maximum,
Yeah.
one direct.
I mean, you
vehicle
guys
access on a
understand
public
it?
road
I
for
mean-
5 lots.
Yeah, I think that needs just to be, I don't understand why you couldn't have just one access. Or a circular road, because you have to have, for fire, you have to be able to get out,
In and out.
in and
Yeah.
out.
Okay. we'll make that clear.
We sure, we're over that.
Sheriff frontage,
Roads,
abundance of body of water, blah, 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 blah. Portion of the road.
So that's to protect water.
Scene vistas.
Where possible, structure shall be. Solar energy and natural drainage areas. And of course, the overall plan of the solar development. I mean, anybody who's gonna put together a development that includes cluster housing is gonna take all that into account.
Okay.
I was in Sedona, Arizona one time, and a friend had a house there that, because of the red rocks and
Yeah,
and the
that's-
business, right, you can only build a house a certain height,
Right,
and your house can't block somebody else's view
because of the scenery.
of the rocks. Yeah, it was pretty strict. And she had a house that an architect had built, and he designed floors, like, so that you could have amazing vistas and still have like 3 stories or whatever, because it was built on the side of a hill or whatever. There's a lot of.
Well, everywhere you look there, scenery, so they don't want to block it.
Location of the subsurface wastewater disposal system and the equivalent reserve area, blah, 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 must be restricted, so it's not to be built on. So report of a license site evaluation shall come with the plan if the subsurface disposal system. not there.
Well, if utilities underground, they didn't do that here.
Well, subsurface wastewater disposal means, no, septic.
Well, I'm talking. Well, utilities shall be, oh, so they're talking about a septic.
Yes, subsurface wastewater disposal.
Station.
Oh, but I think she's on N. I think you're on M and she's on N.
Yeah. If that reserved, can't go there.
That's.
They could do it underground.
Yeah. It would sure look things prettier. If it
Yeah.
was underground. In in California, everything was underground.
Yeah, so it was in Pennsylvania. When I came here, I'm like, it's all the ice terms we have. Why did you not build them? I did call because it runs right across in front of our house. And I
Yeah.
said, what, when it comes off the pole, can we go underground and run it?
What they say,
Yeah, for like $40,000.
Yeah, it's crazy money.
I'm like, really? To dig a trench and bury that stuff? Come on.
Yeah.
wow,
So,
Yeah, we got a quote from, at our cabin for, have CMP put underground utilities in, it's 650 feet. And it was almost 20 grand.
you couldn't run the wires yourself and.
I can dig the trench
Yeah.
and I can have someone else do it, but if I wanted to pay them to do it, it was like 20 to 25. And if I do poles, it's a little bit less. But then if there's an issue, they cover the cost of it.
Wow,
And with the way the driveway is set up, I would need to buy 1 pole. They'll set 1
mhm.
and I need 1 more beyond that.
Yeah, they're just not
That's in
pretty.
Canton here.
yeah, but.
That's us in Emden.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, we've got land up in Emden that we want to put
Given the town.
put power in, but it's easy.
So we just said this whole section's gonna go,
Oh,
right? Because this was this exception for the village center. If we're gonna make the whole thing
oh,
up, 10,000 square feet and greater, then.
Yeah.
This, you don't need this. So please go.
But maybe a strike through before you delete it, though.
Right.
Yeah.
what? Do we know where the strike through is?
Mm. Well, usually it's around the font area.
Rules, hold on. I remember that.
Would it be under?
In this function, I don't know. What is this one over here? Hold on.
Table
Let's see how to do strike throughs on Google Docs. Oh, here it is on Google. Select the text and enter, then either use the keyboard shortcut Alt-Shift-5 on Windows or go to Format Text Strike Through.
Yeah.
All right.
You are good.
And if I can do
Fast, too.
it.
But fast.
Dedication and maintenance of common open space. The common space will be dedicated upon approval of the project, which we know for the subdivision of this land. However, easements for public utilities may be permitted. Each 20,000 square foot lot shall have a corresponding 20,000 square foot minimum of common open space.
Okay,
So if we decide that you could allow 10,000 square foot lots, then you'd have to allow 30,000 square feet of open space. So that was what was in there that we struck out. That was only for that development, but that's, if we decide we want to put that in here, that lets people do that. So you're still keeping 40,000 square feet.
Ooh, D.
D is a HOA.
development shall establish
Yeah.
incorporated neighborhood development association specific membership approval, planning board for association. I always avoided HOAs in my homes, but I did on my last one in Florida, and it was only $115 a year, and
Well,
that
that's
was.
not bad, actually.
No, that's why I said, okay.
Yeah.
In California, they were a lot more.
Oh,
but-
yeah.
The reason we did it is because I said, oh, okay, because they did have a pool area and they had a common ground area and they maintained all that.
Oh,
And we had a pond. And they maintained the pond, you know, had
Hmm.
people can put in pumps and stuff like that. So even if it was like 200, I would have said, okay, so just bare minimum.
and were you able to choose like who you wanted for certain leaders and things like that, or?
Oh, yeah, there was the boats and stuff like that. I mean, you could, yeah, they ran for the positions and stuff like that.
And did they have rules, like you can't put a lawn sign or something like that?
It was a very non-strict HOA.
Oh, okay.
Because my next to the youngest lives in Indianapolis and lives in an HOA.
Mhm.
She had to get permission before she can paint her shutters or her garage door. She can only put her Christmas, say, decoration. I would get kicked out in a heartbeat.
Well, see, my daughter lives in North Carolina in a
And
very
you can't
nice
leave-
area.
Have your decorations up a certain time. I mean,
And they're not that strict, but the
this one.
development is beautiful, but she pays over $2,500 a year
Yeah.
Wow,
in HOA fees. So, I mean, they can,
it's,
that's
I
like.
mean, there's a good point to
Yeah.
it, I think.
Exactly.
Because if someone leaves a car sitting on the driveway and it's a rundown thing, then, you know,
You'll
they can
yeah.
find them and make them get rid of it. And I don't see the problem with having a paint selection for colors because it makes things nice. So a minimal HOA,
Yeah.
I agree with, but.
I know I've seen ones with like, you have, if you're gonna hang up drapes, they
Mhm.
have to either be like lined so that you have white, whatever. From the outside looking in, they have to be like white or cream. Now inside you can have any color you want to, but the lining had to be.
The reason they had to do
But I've
is
seen like bed sheets.
all the
hanging out
mailboxes had to
Oh.
match.
Oh.
And then they have to pay once a year, but yeah, I don't see anything wrong with an HOA, I just, depending on how strict they're going.
Right,
Yeah.
gotta put the boundaries around, yeah. Well, people can buy in or not, right? You can
Mhm.
choose to join or not.
And I always chose not until the last one.
Right. There you go. So it says the developer will take control of all that stuff until 75% of the anticipated total membership. So. All right.
That's good.
In any case in which the owners of residential units in the development are to hold title in common to all open space, land and development. Or to retain responsibility jointly for maintaining private ways or providing, or owners shall file a recorded declaration describing the areas to be held in common.
is that section still valid? MRSA?
Let's take a look. 33 MRS. 669. Oh. This says, so title 33. Other main revised statute, section 669 is copies of bankruptcy orders and decrees. So we have to-
Unit ownership act.
Let's put that in, maybe that will yield, you know, the Unit Ownership Act in quotes to. Okay, oh wait, this does say Title 33. Okay, Title 33, and then this is section 669. There's that one here. 669. Huh. Yeah. That's weird. Okay, let me.
This basically says if the HOA doesn't follow through on its duties to maintain that common space, the town of Canton may perform such maintenance work to collect the expenses from the person or persons responsible.
That's good.
So,
Okay, what was the section? 669? There is no more. At least under the chapter 10 unit ownership.
There is no more 669?
No, well, the 669 is register of deeds. Copies of bankruptcy orders and decrees, so it's like off a little bit. Something must have changed.
okay, we'll leave that with a question mark. We'll come back to that. Question mark. All right. Yeah, no, I can see the town going, and we don't want to be responsible for any of that maintenance,
Yeah,
but they're saying, nobody's saying you are responsible, but they're saying if the organization either hires somebody or makes, engages somebody to do that, and they somehow don't do it.
Look at
that money that they
569.
raise,
Do they not have
569.
the manpower to do it?
they don't have any-
Contents of declaration, description of land, description of building, identification number of units,
Well. I
description of
think we can
areas.
decide
I wonder
That
if
could
that's
be,
what it's supposed
that's
to do.
probably what it
maybe
is.
the town can't may.
Well, yeah, who to
appoint
receive services,
maintenance
all bylaws, all
company
those
in charge
details.
That's.
with those
that-
funds or something like
It's
that.
the
So
unit
that you could-
ownership
I mean, I
act.
could see that, because,
Oops.
I'm sorry.
I just-
You're fine.
Percentage of ownership. We think we found it,
Okay.
Tom and I. Section 569 instead of 669.
Oh, good pickup.
Yep.
Okay,
Chapter 10, subchapter 1 is unit ownership, and that's unit
Right.
ownership
Yeah.
also.
we will find that. Oh, thank you.
The common open space shall be legally usable for
Well, in some ways,
agriculture, there was some details in there.
Yeah, this is that whole
Oh, okay,
agenda thing, just ignore all
what's
those.
into town?
It's a resident,
not a condo, but where people own like a percentage of the building. Do you know what I mean? There's a certain housing where it's not, they're not
Mostly like
condos,
the-
but they're apartments still, but they own, co-op.
yes,
Up here.
That's what it is.
They're
Yeah.
next, like, they-
Yeah.
They could do it.
Cause I'd like to, I'd be intrigued to see what the deeds look like as far as these open spaces, meaning how they convey this to the residents.
Funds collected from the development, exactly.
Right.
Well,
this is just
but,
wasting
okay,
space.
when you say funds from the development. Or do you mean? Who's responsible for the maintenance initially?
Well, it's saying the developer, the developer has responsibility until the HOA
Right.
gets big enough that it's collecting enough money from 75% of the, so let's say you put in 100 homes.
Okay, you
75
change
of
it to the HOA, okay,
Right.
that's what I'm questioning, okay,
Right.
yeah. The money should come from their pot.
Yes.
So these developers just can't run quick,
Right.
build it and leave.
See ya.
Not that anybody would do that.
Common space, the. Common.
Ooh,
space.
I wonder if the text of this, where this came from for present ones.
When you say agricultural, that's kind of a broad statement there,
Yep.
meaning. Did someone go in there and just plant fields or whatever, or are we talking
Yeah.
like
Or have-
community gardens?
a pen of chickens.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think I'd want that in. I don't
No,
think-
but I'm saying agriculture that,
Yeah, it could be anything, so.
So let's see, does it tell us anything about who decides? Put that on.
Common space shall be usable for loan.
I would think that would be part of your HOA
I don't think I'd
bylaws
want
or
a chicken coop up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
saying your HOA would govern that as a rule, right?
they should.
Because I know Kate cannot have chickens.
So we haven't, we've got two more pages, but there may be something in here that explains more about the boundaries of the HOA, right? And if not, maybe we put that in here.
Okay. Such uses shall not include the rights of way or parking areas or tennis courts. Okay, I don't think we're gonna have tennis courts.
Swimming, well.
Pickleball.
Yeah, pickleball. That's a biggie. Swimming pools or similarly, so I don't, why not?
Okay, such uses shall not include the rights of way, shall not include the rights of way or parking areas or tennis courts. So they're saying you can't have tennis courts. That's saying, right?
So up front of this, they call this section recreational facility, but then they talk about common open space, which I think are two different things, right?
Well, why can't you have that, like, a swimming pool in there if they want, or, you know, I think that's saying they shall not, right? In those open spaces. Oh, maybe just in the open spaces,
Right.
such.
So they can't count the in-ground swimming pool as the, you know,
As part of the open space.
right,
It's not natural. Part of the natural features, so, yeah.
Okay. Such use.
Oh, it
shall
should be shown separately, that's all.
Not include, swimming pools, or similar, which shall be shown. Okay, so it's saying they can have them, they just don't want them in the open space.
Yeah. They cannot be counted as open space.
Well, then you gotta determine, I mean, if they're gonna want to include that, that cuts down on the number of.
Units.
Units available.
Right.
So, that's a decision you have to make, is how much open space you want. Such uses shall not include the rights of way or parking areas, okay, we did that one, the use of any open space may be further limited or much shorter the time of the final building where necessary. To protect adjacent properties. So basically, they're saying you can maybe consider it, right, on number C?
Well, you can have, I mean, use of open space, right? So what do you, what do you call an open space? Like, let's say you built a subdivision and you want to put a trail system through there, hiking trail system. I mean, that counts as open space.
Yes, open space.
But maybe you don't want that trail system so close to adjacent properties, or do you want to put your gazebo that maybe has a plug so you could have some music, outdoor music concerts? Maybe you don't want to put that too close to the neighbors. Right? You want to put it somewhere else. Okay. I don't know.
Shall be submitted in writing to the planning board.
Planning board forms, Brad, we got more forms here.
oh,
Okay.
let me make a note.
Proceed for administrative permit within 3.0 days, yay, that's fast. Let's see, we're opening planning board shall notify, writing.
I don't think that'll happen.
No.
Been trying to find where this is based off of, meaning, did this come from somewhere? I've been trying to plug this into
I'm
Google.
sure it did, because I don't think Canton never created these things originally, some stuff. Is there a Maine state statute?
I haven't found one yet, but it's.
Yeah, I tried searching too and I couldn't find one.
Somewhere I think we know, I'd have to go back to paperwork to see if we can find the original one, because the original one, this was modified in 2006, but the bulk of it, except for that one paragraph that we just struck out, was prior to that.
Right. Prior to 2006, okay.
The rest of this is probably,
We went through this one, we completed something.
we've started figuring out where we need to edit.
Yeah.
So town 2006 was revision, but the original was earlier then. So let me take this, what we've got here now. But first of all, let me go back to the original one and make it in a Word document that we can all read without changing anything. So we've got an original, and then we can, because you have to be able to show changes. So we'll be able to show what those changes came from.
Okay, so you'll send this to us,
Yes.
and then we need to read through it and mark whatever changes we want.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, I think we have to figure out why this was, I mean, so this was written, this was a new concept of single-family housing design that allowed for this net residential density. You know, I think bigger municipalities had concerns about how do we get more people in our town effectively? And let's put some boundaries around that so that they're building nice housing developments. I'm not sure why Canton adopted it. But it probably wasn't mandated at one point. Yeah. No,
I think there's gonna be utility.
Okay, so that right there, that statement,
mhm.
that's pretty good explaining what it is, so the lot size do need to be smaller for a cluster housing.
Right, that's the whole point.
That's the whole point, so.
So Maine has a land use planning regulations. So somewhere in there should be cluster. Anyway, I think we probably have a great start on this.
Cluster development, right there, 1A. Cluster development means.
A form of development that allows subdivision. Individual lot size setbacks are reduced in exchange
Yeah.
for the creation of common open space and recreation areas.
That should be.
It really is preservation of environmentally sensitive areas. Agriculture and silviculture,
Should that be part of the ordinance? Explaining what it is?
absolutely.
Yeah, I think we should copy and just put that in there, maybe, because that kind of explains it.
Yeah, why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah,
right?
really. I just think.
Well, yeah, definitions. Usually we start with the definition section somewhere in here.
So I agree with the quarter acre then. I think we should go down to that. But whatever.
Okay. All right, well, within the comp plan and this, let's see if we can get our finalized stuff together. So let me make a clean one of the original so that we can then show the select board what we've changed it to. Because the town always wants to know, hey, this is your new ordinance, where are we coming from?
Right.
So they want to see that.
Okay, so.
But
Did
you
you
know,
have to turn this into that?
Yes, time to, okay, can we, let's stop and do this stuff.
Okay, so do we have to, raise this?
Yeah.
I motion to adjourn.
I second.
Second.
All those in favor?
well, actually, I do,
Sure.
actually, I don't think it's debatable. I vote no, on the adjourning just because I
Okay.
had something else I want to add.
Sure.
What would you like to?
I was just going to say, for some reason, I think it's my Apple, the way it opens up this document, but I do think that before I don't know if that was supposed to be the final version of the cluster.
No.
Oh, okay, good, because I was going to say this Kennebec Valley thing. It doesn't open up really well on my pages on Mac, but I think that has a lot of critiques on the way cluster housing ordinances are drafted. And that's why it talks about this open space subdivision. So I was just making sure we weren't sending something off just yet. Okay.
Did you forward that to everybody?
For everybody?
Oh,
so we could
sure.
read
Well,
it?
I'll forward it when I can download it on Word,
Oh,
where it's a
okay.
clean version. Because if I
Okay.
try to convert this back to Word, it just will probably not look good.
Oh,
But
before we
I'll send it to
compare.
her. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. No, you're good. I motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
No, you just put in, you're paid per meeting, doesn't matter, we're not paid by the
Oh.
hour,
Oh.
you just put the dates.
Oh, okay.
I think